we are. Chris and Emily, over to you.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Emily Hoffman, and I'm a product marketing manager at Salesforce. And I want to welcome you to our discussion on agility, identity, and a single system of record. Today, I'll be presenting with one of our amazing Trailblazer customers, Chris Guenther, who's the Senior Vice President, Global Head of Programmatic and GM of NewsIQ within News Corp. And before we get started, just a quick PSA to the audience that Salesforce is a publicly traded company, so please make any purchasing decisions based off of our current suite of products and not on any forward-looking statements you might hear. And I also just wanted to thank everyone for being here today. We know it's a really busy time as we, approach end of year. So great that everyone's taking their time out of the day to be a part of the summit. I know there are so many amazing speakers, so we hope you come away with some interesting insights from our session. And before I pass things off to Chris, I just wanted to set the scene a bit and talk about our current marketing landscape and how data and analytics can really help guide marketing strategy and ultimately navigate some of the ebbs and flows that we're currently in. And then I'm going to pass things off to Chris, who can bring this all to life. So why are we talking about marketing data today? It really begins with the modern marketer and their key goals and objectives. And a part of a marketer's role is to be always nimble and as agile as possible. And marketers are really at the center of everything. They're being tasked with two concurrent responsibilities. So on one hand, you have the responsibility of being the steward of customer experiences, making sure that every experience is personalized and empathetic. And then on the other hand, marketers are being increasingly tasked with driving bottom line growth for their companies. And as a result, marketers really need to be able to adapt quickly to react to some of the industry changes that have come up. So whether it's a period of uncertainty driven by economic, political, social, or health-related factors, or if we're in a period of certainty and growth, no matter the circumstance, marketers need to be able to navigate these cycles with confidence. And data and measurement are really the key here to managing these two different mandates as they connect the dots between every single piece of content, every message, every campaign that a marketer is running, and providing insight into how it's resonating with audiences. And while we know that data can really help marketers to manage and navigate these challenges, we also know that there's a set of unique challenges that marketers face when it comes to data and measurement. Actually, earlier this year, we commissioned a study to really dive deeper into these challenges, and we found that there were three main challenges across the board. One was a lack of a unified view of marketing investments and performance. The second was marketers are having difficulty with the speed in which they're receiving information, so having those insights at their fingertips. And then finally, marketers are struggling with that lack of alignment across teams and business units. They're reporting in silos and they're misaligned on marketing goals. So now that I've quickly, gone through some of the challenges that we're seeing with data and this dual mandate, I'd like to pass it off to one of our valued customers, Chris Guenther, who's going to walk us through how News Corp is actually adapting to industry changes on the publisher side and how they're thinking about identity and using AI and machine learning to overcome data challenges and track and measure performance. So I'll hand things off to you now, Chris.
Great. Thank you, Emily. And thank you to our hosts today. If you could put on next slide, please. Just a quick overview. Many people sort of know the News Corp name, but don't understand that exactly what's made up there. We have 100+ media properties worldwide. We're the #1 digital real estate holder, and then in the U.S. we have 178 million uniques, and this is across brands people are familiar with: Wall Street Journal, New York Post, Realtor. In Europe we have, of course, Sun and the Times, and there's a common thread, even though there's a large group of properties spread across multiple markets. There's a common thread across these properties, how people's journeys are, whether they're looking at gossip on page 6, going to WSJ for their business news, going to realtor.com to look for a listing. And this, the thread kind of continues throughout as there are different points in their day and different points in their life cycle. They're going to us for the news and information they need. And the reason why I bring this up as we look to the next slide is, this is a critical way we understand these people, and we're trying to take greater advantage of it. This is a slide I hope I don't have to use for too long, but it's we're obviously in the middle of a public health crisis, economic crisis, a business crisis, and News Corp is looking to adopt this. We look at this as a time as much as it's a difficult time, it's also an opportunity where we're creating greater collaboration between our business units. We're investing in critical anchoring points around identity and data, obviously the focus of today. And I think this is the changing times that should help spurring that ahead. Next slide, please. So how are we thinking about identity? This is that core investment, that core anchor of the people coming to our site, the people who, our users, they trust us, they know us, they're coming to us for a reason. And we take that trust very seriously as we try to understand their needs and deliver to them the best content experience and the best advertising experience. So these are things that we kind of keep in mind. So at the anchor of that is a news ID. It's our proprietary identifier, sort of built around the domain ID or device ID, because it's a first party available and stable. But then it's really about taking these inputs and clustering together via machine learning. That clustering is obviously constantly under evaluation for density, for accuracy. We look at, as we build out graphs, they have different use cases, not just for advertising, but for subscription, for marketing. And I think another critical thing to know as we anchor or we build out our news ID is, how does it connect elsewhere? How does it connect to external identifiers? We can't just build a identity or a cluster of IDs that lives in an isolated manner. It has to work with our partners on the buy side and around match, measure, frequency cap. So that connection to external identifiers, whether it's efforts around the private sector or some industry efforts, are critical. The other thing too is how do we supplement our insights with second party data? So there's a connection between our news ID and as appropriate to the second party data to kind of round out and build out our profiles of people. So I think all these things it's about what we're building in internally, but then it's also partnering with others outside of the ecosystem. Next slide, please. I'm going to talk about one manifestation of that, NewsIQ. So, NewsIQ is leveraging that first party cookie, the news ID. It's helping identify the consumers that the buyers need and, developing building segments of those consumers and then allowing us to activate. So we have to, as we take the tracking of the audience behavior, we then have to assemble this precise scalable audiences and then obviously be able to activate it across our owned and operated or even off owned and operated as appropriate. And I'm going to go into a little more detail on each of these steps. So how do we get the first party data? And you look at it, it's the news ID collects these users' behavioral signals from the participating properties on our platform. So as I mentioned earlier, if they're looking WSJ, they're going there to check out what's going on in the business world. They might be going to marketwatch.com to check on their stock portfolio. They're going to New York Post to see their sports news or gossip, which we all need a mental health break and want to look at gossip these days. On Realtor, as I mentioned about looking at mortgages or looking at homes. These signals, we're capturing these signals into across 178 million uniques, and that actually number is it's been growing. Given the news cycle, we have even more people. So more, and that's a comp score number. So it's a dedupe multi-platform. So you look at that, this massive scale, collecting all this data. So what do you do with this data once we've collected it? Next slide, please. We put it together around signals that we combine these signals into robust user profiles. And this is a real example of what we've done. We built out a home improvers segment, and we know from Realtor, people are recent movers based on tools they've used, signals they've sent us. We know from our content, they have architectural design interest, interior design interest, home decor interest. These are all these signals that have come together and are attached to the news ID, which allow us to build out a powerful segment that appeals to many folks on the buy side. Because real estate is a great example of it's in a critical life stage moment. People are making decisions not just about buying a home; they're about buying furniture to fill that home, buying electronics, buying a car, obviously making financial decisions. And so all these signals that are come together to build a robust group of folks that we can then activate against. Next slide, please. And then, how we leverage ML further around this, because it's not just their behavioral, it's also propensity for action. And I think this is a critical thing here. As one example, we've been using machine learning as a set of users saw an ad, then clicked on it. That forms a basis for a future events classification model. So these are all these different data points from content they're reading, actions they're taking. Machine learning kind of helps us pull these things all together, create something that's more useful for advertisers. Next slide, please. Finally, all these things happen, but you have to know what's happening. So the tracking and measuring of NewsIQ is a critical component. This is where we've partnered with Salesforce and Datarama platform to track the campaigns and the performance of the segments. We've built our own proprietary tools that leverage the log level data and that look at it in a holistic manner about performance, not just from NewsIQ deals, but others. So all this comes together and allows us to understand our audiences and help our advertisers. Done.
Again, right on time. I'm impressed. I'm impressed. You're all so disciplined. Thank you. Thank you very much, Chris. Thanks, Emily.